Hi, and welcome to this edition of ForwardKeys and Friends. I'm Juan Gomez, Insights Expert at ForwardKeys. Some of you may be surprised to see me instead of my colleague Olivier Ponti, who had been advertised as the moderator for this session. But sadly, Olivier is currently confined at home due to COVID-19. Doing well, let me reassure you, and thus unable to join us in the studio today. It is my pleasure to moderate this new edition of ForwardKeys and Friends. In case this is your first time, let me remind you that ForwardKeys and Friends is a webinar series in which we ask one of our industry friends to tell us how they use data to be better at whatever they do. Our guest today is fellow Valencian Ricardo Millet, Director of Intelligence and Digitalization at Visit Valencia. Over the past few years, his organization has made a big push forward to unlock the power of big data. And Ricardo will tell us how this was made possible. He will also show us how COVID-19 worked as an accelerator for change and encourage the adoption of new monitoring tools, enabling travel professionals to make decisions based on data rather than just feelings. But I'm not going to spoil Ricardo's presentation, so I guess I should stop here. Over to Ricardo. Before we start, let me remind you of two housekeeping remarks. One, you will receive the recording of this webinar and the PowerPoint presentation by email, and we will have time for questions after Ricardo's presentations. Don't wait until the Q&A to start to ask questions. Please use the question button to your right or chat function. Ricardo, I will now switch off my camera and leave the stage.
Good morning, Juan, and good morning, everyone. As Juan has already mentioned, I'm Ricardo Millet, the Director of Intelligence and Digitalization of Visit Valencia. Visit Valencia is the DMO of our city, and in recent years we have worked with an important and ambitious objective in mind. We want Valencia to be a more profitable and sustainable tourist destination. This means to have more capacity to create wealth and employment, but at the same time to develop the tourism activity without negatively affecting neither the way of life of the 1 million citizens nor its environment. However, we have seen that many European destinations have had problems due to the massive influx of visitors, and we believe that this is something to avoid. In order to increase the economic impact of the tourism sector, while preserving our quality of life, we understand that we need to reach more profitable tourism segments. For this purpose, we want to offer a more satisfactory experience to our travelers by informing them better about what they can do in Valencia. For instance, we like to specialize our way of working, taking into account tourist products that we believe are a priority, such as culture, sports, and gastronomy. Valencia, I think, is a magnificent setting for enjoying any of these things. We have, for example, a rich variety of local dishes such as paella. In order for our specialized offer to reach many markets, we need to stand out in online marketing. For this, at Visit Valencia, we are investing heavily and training all our employees. In fact, online marketing has the peculiarity of basing all its decisions on data, which is precisely a central element of our strategy. Data mining allows us to understand which demand segments are the most important to be able to grow profitably. I imagine that if you are listening to this webinar is because you also believe in the power of data to improve our decisions and our lives. But how could we collect data and use it easily? Well, at Visit Valencia, we realized that the only way was to start using digital technology in our organization. This means introducing software applications in every process and area, like marketing or finance. The first tool with which we start this journey was the intelligence system. We call it SID, and we inaugurated it in 2019 with 4 million data. But before telling you about this platform, I would like to explain why this project started. The Visit Valencia model is public-private, which means that tourism companies in Valencia can openly join our foundation. Also, they can become a member and get many different services in exchange. Some time ago, these associated companies told us that they needed more statistical information to improve their decision making. After all, most of them are small businesses and cannot deal with BI process on their own. That is why we start working on the design of a very simple and intuitive tool, just it. Now, if you visit our website, visitvalencia.com/SIT, you can access to the first page, which has been very successful. 1 year ago, when we finished this phase, we start to build the second one. But in the middle of the process, a global health crisis took us by surprise. And at that time, we realized that the tool we have built was not enough for such an unexpected situation. That is why in March 2020, we began to rapidly design new dashboards, including market reports that show us the current situation of each country. We have to be very creative. For example, we introduced information published by Google on the mobility of the citizens. In the coming months, if the health situation improves, this market report will show us which countries are starting to offer opportunities for us. But what do you think will be the key element in the reactivation phase? For most destinations, airlines will clearly define the real chances of finding visitors. For this reason, we will need to have a good network of airline connections. However, it will not be easy for airlines as they tend to include heavy cruises. They find difficulty to generate profits even in the best of times. In fact, it is the only industry that, from the time it was born until now, has made more losses than profits. Well, given this situation, it is normal for airlines to analyze a multitude of data before making any decisions. That is why we place so much importance on airports information in our city. We knew that if we have the key data, we could negotiate with them as never before. This is where ForwardKeys come into play. ForwardKeys offer us data on booking and seats capacity on air routes. And Valencia Airport informs us of the number of passengers from each city of origin. If we combine both sources, we obtain a very useful indicator, the occupancy of the flights. But why is this important? Well, it's very simple. The success of a route depends on this indicator. For instance, when we see that a route is below 80% occupancy, we know that maybe the airline is losing money, and therefore we run the risk of it being lost. However, if we know this in advance, we can, for example, carry out of a promotional actions in the trip origin region to avoid the closure of the routes. When the occupancy rate is around 80%, we know that the airline is in balance. For this reason, we probably have neither big problems nor great opportunities in the short term. Finally, when we see that a route has an occupancy above 80%, we understand that there are opportunities. We can try to get the airline to increase the capacity of the route or negotiate with another operator to open a new connection to the same or a nearby airport. Considering nowadays situation, in the coming months, we will need to quick find the opportunities and weaknesses of our air connectivity. Obviously, good connectivity management is essential to get back on track. I have told you about the seat, but our digitalization plan is much broader than that. In 2020, we have also designed and implemented a fantastic tool, which we have called Hermes. For the Greek, Hermes is the good of travelers who cross borders. But what is Hermes for Visit Valencia? It is a custom-made CRM that optimizes the relationships we have with intermediaries and prescribers in each market. Thanks to Hermes, we will be able to organize campaigns for each type of agent. The information that we receive from ForwardKeys will also be essential for this. Look at the difference between the booking window of German and Spanish tourists. Their consumption patterns are completely different. Don't you think then that thanks to this information we can establish accurate communication with travel agencies of each country? Our CRM will allow us to work using data we have, but it will also generate much more information that will help us to change for the better. In 2021, the priority will be regain an acceptable volume of tourists to reactivate employment. But in the long term, this will not be enough. On the one hand, tourists want to get different experiences that fits their interest. However, locals also demand quality tourism that is respectful of the city. For this reason, we will further improve our site. As I told you before, we are now building the second phase with more information like indicators extracted from Google Analytics. They can be useful to learn about what attracts visitors to visit Valencia, and what they want to do on their trips. This kind of data are not only useful for Visit Valencia, but also for the companies associated to our organization. For this reason, our challenge is not only to obtain the information, but also to disseminate it. We were wondering how to do it, and we have now found the answer. In the third phase of the site, we will design and publish something we are very excited about, buyer personas. As you know, buyer personas are profiles of the main priority demand segments. They provide a lot of information and they are very friendly. That's why they are so powerful, because they are easy to understand for all tourism professionals. The buyer persona gives you just the information you need. And it is the opposite of those long and boring profile reports that nobody reads. To give you some example, buyer persona will allow museums to advertise in the same area that the potential customers visit in each country. Also, leisure companies will be able to know which activities are of the interest in each type of customers. As you can see, they can be used to make the destination more attractive. Right now, we already have some information on the demand patterns in the city. For example, we know the commercial channel that passengers use to buy flight tickets, or the number of people who come alone, in couple or as a group. We get this kind of analysis from ForwardKeys. Our idea is to build buyer personas by adding various sources to the ones we already have. With that, we hope to increase little by little the average spend that travelers make in our city. As you can see, at Visit Valencia, we consider business intelligence as the center of our daily work. Now that we are in a difficult situation, it is really necessary to think carefully about every step we take. And that is why we are so grateful to our friends at ForwardKeys. I don't know if any of you know these people who work there. They have such inspiring energy and talent. With that attitude, they will be able to help many destinations like us to emerge stronger from the crisis. Thank you very much, Juan, and thank you to all your colleagues of ForwardKeys.
Let me just get my camera on. Thank you so much for this presentation, Ricardo, and for the very nice words at the end. While we leave our audience for asking questions, I would like to mention, as you can see in the presentation, that Visit Valencia uses a lot of our services: actual air tickets, seat capacity, total air market, ForwardKeys Nexus, and as well our newest tool, Destination Gateway. So if you would like to know more about these datasets, don't hesitate to contact us at webinar@forwardkeys.com. So let's start now with some of the questions. So the first question that I would like to ask, Ricardo, is: do you plan to incorporate other digital tools?
Yes, of course. In addition to those I have already mentioned, we are going to implement an ERP to improve our financial management, a human resource model, and we are investing heavily in online marketing. Specifically, we are greatly improving our website and our online shop. We are also finishing the implementation of HubSpot that will be allow us to better interact with our tourists.
Okay. And what information the SIT, the SIT is most successful?
Yeah, I think that air traffic charts are widely used, and as I explained before, they will be very important in the next months. We cannot fail to quickly rebuild our airport connections.
Okay. I have a question from Lorena Domenech from the audience, and her question is less technical and more of looking into the future. What are your expectations for the summer, Ricardo?
Well, I don't think we know what is going to happen, but we are hopeful that thanks to the vaccination campaign, the situation will improve. We are ready for that.
Yeah, no, of course it's difficult to predict, and as you were saying, it's always good to base any decision on the data and the good data that we have in our hands to be able to predict, and of course to be always a step ahead of the game and differentiate as well from the competing destinations. Another question that was asking another person from the audience, Hector Garcia, was asking, do you think COVID is gonna change the rules of the tourism game, or how much the COVID is gonna change the tourism industry as we've known in the past, or forever?
Okay, COVID will accelerate the digitalization of the economy and of our lives. I think some sectors will be very affected. In the tourism case, for example, many congresses will be now in person and online at the same time. But however, other activities will be less affected. Tourism will be always be face to face.
Yeah, if one of the things that we learned during 2020, I mean, from the many lessons that this pandemic is leaving behind, was how resilient our industry is, right? And how, of course, is affected by many things, and the pandemic, of course, is now what is really impacting, but how resilient it can be. So definitely it will be something to look for. How do you decide what information to include in your system? What is the process that you use to make that decision?
Okay, as I explained before, our platform has two audiences. Visit Valencia professionals and associated companies. We first ask the companies about their needs, as understanding the needs of our colleagues at the Department of Marketing or Brand Management, it's easier for us. But in order to find out the priorities that they have these companies, we organize several sessions in which, by means of a televoting system, they can tell us the priorities. And we discovered, for example, that information data about consumption patterns or profile of tourists is really important for them. And for example, the geolocalization information is not so important.
Okay. Another question we get from the audience, Bernard Cau is asking a couple of questions. I'll start with the first. How do you use the actual data in regards to the COVID situation? Is there any example? I know you were talking earlier about the capacity and the occupancy of those routes, but are there any other examples that you can give the audience about how the data is being used in these particular times difficult times?
Yes, for example, we ask every 15 days to the hotels about their occupancy. We monitor this data constantly. We ask, for example, restaurants as well about their activities, and we have little more information. For example, we take information from each country, and we know if in Germany maybe a tour operator is closed, or if there is any important information, it needs one. But in any case, all the information that we have, but not all, but a lot of them, it is in the market reports that we have in our website, visitValencia.com/SIT.
Okay. I'm not sure if there's any other questions coming. Another question that pops to my head is, what technology did you use to build your system? I know you've covered a little bit during your presentation, but if you could explain us more about that.
Okay. On the one hand, we have used Microsoft solutions. Our dashboards are built with Power BI, and the database are SQL. And we choose Microsoft because it has a whole suite that gives services for all the areas of the companies. And this is very important for us because our digitalization plan is a global plan. But for the information about the COVID, like the market reports or the calendar of other kind of information, we use Infogram, because Infogram is very flexible, very quick, and is not expensive at all.
Okay. And going back again to the the management of the situation and the pandemic, and going back again to the question that Bernard was asking on the chat, what changes do you intend to plan to plan the situation after the COVID restrictions? So what's next? Hopefully this doesn't last forever. So what are what's the plan for an after COVID or the new normal when it comes?
Okay, our plan until that situation was to digitalize the foundation, the Visit Valencia, and for us, this plan will continue to be the only one that we can to have now. We don't have changed our plan. It's very easy. We are building a lot of marketing solutions like HubSpot. That is a platform for improve the relationship with our tourists. We are improving our web, our online shop. We are building the second phase of the site, and we are designing the third phase. And all these plans, we have all these plans until the crisis, and we are continuing with them. We will not have the digitalization plan.
Okay. And I'm not sure if anyone has more questions. I have probably the last one. What kind of statistical information can you extract from CRM?
Well, right now is difficult to us to know the results of each one of our commercial actions. But this is going to change radically with the CRM. To give an example, in a trade fair oriented towards bikes, for example, the CRM will allow us to easily monitor our different actions. First, we will know the people. No, we will know how many people we contact at the trade fair. Then we will know if we have organized a tour inspection with any of them. And after that second event, we will end up capturing any meeting of our city. In short, thanks to the CRM, we can monitor each one of our promotional actions, and we will have a complete traceability of the results of these actions. And on the other hand, the CRM will allow us to know the value we bring to each of our associates, from the sales of the service in our online shop to to the number of times and the audience that they have appeared in international media thanks to our press trips.
Okay, that's very interesting indeed. Right, if we don't have more questions, then I guess that's a wrap up. Thank you again so very much for being here with us today, Ricardo. The funny thing is we're literally in the same street, just a few blocks away, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, look forward to everyone in the audience. Thank you as well for joining us today, for all your questions. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at webinars@forwardkeys.com and follow us on LinkedIn and all our social media to stay on top of the latest developments of this situation. So again, thank you very much, Ricardo, for joining us today. Thank you everyone for joining, and have a good day. See you in our next edition of ForwardKeys and Friends.
To you, to Adriana, and Olivier, all your colleagues, Laura as well.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.